Trekking Bonds. Welcome to Story Planet, where we bring you soothing tales to help you unwind. Tonight's story is Trekking Bonds, a peaceful journey into the wilderness, where friendship grows stronger with every step and the beauty of nature unfolds through shared challenges and quiet triumphs. So settle in, get cozy, and let this calming story carry you to a place of breathtaking trails, serene moments, and the enduring bonds of friendship. Now, let's begin. The dream unfolds. It was the tail end of spring when the idea took root. 4 friends, Lila, Sam, Mia, and Jonah, sat under the sprawling branches of an ancient oak tree in the town park, sipping coffee from travel mugs. Their laughter mingled with the breeze as they reminisced about their school days, the hikes they used to take together, and the freedom they'd felt in nature's embrace. "It's been years since we've gone on a real adventure," Mia said, twirling a strand of her auburn hair. "Remember how we used to talk about trekking through the wilderness, camping under the stars?" Jonah, the quiet dreamer of the group, leaned back and let his gaze wander to the distant hills painted gold by the setting sun. "What if we actually did it?" he mused. "A week-long trek. No phones, no schedules. Just us, the forest, and the sky." Lila's eyes lit up. She had always been the planner among them, and the thought of mapping trails and organizing gear sparked an undeniable excitement. "If we're serious, we need to start planning now. Summer's the perfect time." Over the next few weeks, the dream turned into a tangible plan. Maps were spread across kitchen tables, marked with highlighters and sticky notes. They chose the Misty Ridge Trail, a secluded route renowned for its breathtaking views, cascading waterfalls, and emerald meadows. The trek was challenging but manageable, with a trail spanning 6 days and 5 nights. The weeks leading up to the trek were alive with activity. Lila's home became their unofficial base camp. The smell of freshly brewed tea and the soft rustle of gear catalogs filled the air as they sat cross-legged on the floor, debating over tents and sleeping bags. Sam, ever the foodie, took it upon himself to curate their meals. Dehydrated fruits, trail mix, instant soups, and vacuum-sealed meals piled up on the dining table. The aroma of roasted nuts and dried apricots seemed to linger long after their planning sessions ended. Jonah, who had a knack for woodworking, carved walking sticks for each of them, etching tiny symbols into the handles. Sun for Mia, a tree for Lila, a mountain for Sam, and a river for himself. He presented them one evening, the golden glow of sunset bathing the carved patterns. "For luck," he said simply, his voice as steady as the hand that had crafted the gifts. The morning of their departure dawned crisp and cool, with a hint of dew clinging to the grass. They met at the trailhead, their backpacks brimming with essentials, and their hearts filled with anticipation. The sky above was a pale blue canvas streaked with ribbons of white clouds, and the air carried the faint scent of pine and earth. Lila handed out the itinerary she had meticulously crafted, detailing the day's trek and planned campsites. "We'll cover about 8 miles today," she said, pointing to the map. "Mostly uphill, but we'll be rewarded with a ridge view by evening." As they stepped onto the trail, the crunch of gravel underfoot and the occasional chirp of birds marked the beginning of their journey. The forest enveloped them in a mosaic of green and brown, with shafts of sunlight breaking through the dense canopy. Mia reached out to touch the moss-covered bark of an ancient tree, its cool texture grounding her in the present. The first few miles passed in cheerful chatter, punctuated by laughter and the occasional groan as they encountered steep inclines. The trail led them through dense woods, where the air was thick with the scent of wildflowers and damp earth. A gentle breeze carried the songs of distant birds, creating a melody that seemed to echo their steps. By midday, they paused near a bubbling brook to rest and refill their water bottles. The sunlight danced on the surface of the water, and the sound of the brook's gentle murmur was like a lullaby. Sam stretched out on a patch of soft grass, his eyes closed, and declared, "This might be the best decision we've made in years." As evening approached, the terrain began to climb sharply, and the dense forest gave way to a rocky ridge. They pushed on, their breaths mingling with the cool mountain air. When they finally reached the ridge, the view stole their breath. Below them, a vast expanse of green rolled out like a quilt, punctuated by sparkling rivers and clusters of trees. The horizon blushed with the hues of dusk, amber, rose, and lavender. They set up camp on a flat clearing near the edge, their laughter echoing as they fumbled with tent poles and sleeping bags. A fire crackled to life as the sky deepened into navy blue and stars began to shimmer like scattered diamonds. They ate their dinner under the starlit sky, the warmth of the fire and their shared camaraderie warding off the night's chill. "I can't wait to see what tomorrow holds," Mia whispered as she crawled into her sleeping bag, the stars her only lullaby. Trials on the trail. Morning broke with a cool breeze sweeping over the ridge, carrying with it the scent of pine and the soft rustle of leaves. The sun rose slowly, painting the sky in strokes of gold and lavender. Lila was the first to wake, stepping out of her tent to stretch beneath the vast expanse of dawn. She smiled as she saw Sam, still cocooned in his sleeping bag, mumbling in his sleep about pancakes. By the time everyone stirred, the fire was rekindled, and Jonah had brewed a pot of strong coffee. Its earthy aroma mingled with the crisp mountain air as they ate breakfast, granola bars and dried fruit. The day ahead promised new vistas and challenges as they prepared to leave the ridge behind. The trail descended steeply into a dense forest where sunlight struggled to break through the thick canopy. The cool, damp air smelled of moss and wet earth, and their boots crunched on a carpet of fallen leaves. The sound of birdsong and the distant trickle of water added a soothing melody to their journey. As they ventured deeper, the path narrowed, winding through towering ferns and brambles. Lila led the way, her eyes scanning the map while Jonah brought up the rear, ensuring no one lagged behind. "This section looks tricky," Lila warned as the trail dipped into a rocky stream bed. "Watch your footing." Maya let out a playful groan. Who knew trekking meant becoming a goat? Her laughter lightened the mood, but as the terrain grew more challenging, the group fell into a focused silence. The rocks were slippery from the morning dew, and the babble of the stream was occasionally interrupted by the sharp crunch of a misstep. Jonah extended a hand to Sam when his boot slid on a mossy stone, steadying him before he could fall. "Thanks, man," Sam said, his grin sheepish. "Next time, I'll watch where I step." By midday, the trail opened up to a small clearing. They paused to rest, unpacking their lunches of sandwiches and trail mix. The sun broke through the canopy, bathing the clearing in warmth, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves. Sam pulled out a harmonica, playing a light-hearted tune that echoed through the trees. The melody was cheerful, but it also carried a sense of the wildness that surrounded them. Their peace was short-lived. As they prepared to continue, they heard a distant rumble. The forest grew unnaturally quiet, and the ground beneath their feet trembled slightly. Jonah held up a hand. "Did you feel that?" "Is it thunder?" Mia asked, her brow furrowed. Lila's eyes darted to the map. "No, it's a landslide or something close. We need to move quickly." They hurried along the trail, their steps quick and cautious. Soon, they reached a section where the path was blocked by fallen rocks and debris. The landslide had left a jagged scar on the hillside, and the once clear trail was now a precarious slope of loose stones. Sam let out a low whistle. "That's not ideal." Lila studied the map again, her fingers tracing an alternate route. "There's a detour," she said, her voice steady despite the situation. "It's longer and steeper, but it'll take us around this mess." The detour led them into an unfamiliar part of the forest. The trees here were older, their gnarled roots snaking across the ground like veins. The air was thicker, cooler, and the only sounds were their footsteps and the occasional rustle of unseen creatures. The sunlight filtered through the leaves in golden shards, illuminating patches of vibrant moss and delicate mushrooms. As they climbed a steep incline, Mia slipped, her arms flailing. Jonah caught her just in time, pulling her upright. "Thanks," she gasped, her cheeks flushed. "That was close." The group pressed on, their breaths labored as the trail grew steeper. The forest seemed alive around them, its silence almost eerie. They paused to drink water from their flasks, the cool liquid a welcome relief. When they finally emerged from the detour, the forest gave way to a meadow filled with wildflowers. The vibrant colors, yellows, purples, and reds, spread like a living tapestry, and the air was sweet with their scent. They dropped their packs and sank onto the soft grass, their exhaustion giving way to awe. "Worth it," Sam murmured, his eyes on the horizon where the sun was beginning to dip. They set up camp near the meadow's edge, using a natural rock formation as a windbreak. The fire crackled to life once more, casting flickering shadows on their tired faces. Dinner was simple, instant noodles cooked over a portable stove, but it tasted like a feast after the day's trials. As the stars emerged, the group sat in companionable silence. Jonah began carving patterns into a piece of driftwood he'd found, while Lila scribbled notes in her travel journal. Mia lay back on her sleeping bag, staring up at the constellations. "Do you think the stars look different here?" she mused aloud. Sam chuckled. "They're probably laughing at how clumsy we were today." The laughter that followed was soft and warm, carrying with it the sense of resilience and camaraderie forged through shared struggles. Tomorrow promised new challenges, but for now, they were content to sit beneath the stars, listening to the sounds of the meadow and the distant hoot of an owl. Whispers of the wilderness. The morning dawned with an ethereal mist blanketing the meadow, turning the landscape into a dreamscape of muted colors and soft edges. The rising sun pierced through the fog in golden beams, illuminating droplets of dew that clung to the wildflowers like tiny jewels. Lila woke to the sound of birdsong, a symphony of chirps and whistles that seemed to welcome the day. She stretched and stepped out of her tent, her breath visible in the crisp air. Sam soon joined her, rubbing his eyes and grinning. "Coffee?" he offered, holding up the portable kettle. The smell of freshly brewed coffee wafted through the camp, luring Mia and Jonah from their tents. Together, they sat in a circle, savoring the warmth of their mugs and the beauty of the morning. The day's trail led them through a dense forest that felt almost enchanted. Towering pines lined the path, their branches weaving a natural cathedral overhead. Shafts of sunlight streamed through the gaps, casting dappled patterns on the ground. The earthy scent of moss and fallen leaves filled the air, mingling with the occasional sweetness of wildflowers. Mia noticed small, delicate mushrooms sprouting from a fallen log. "Look at these," she called out, kneeling to examine them. Their caps glistened as if dusted with frost. "Careful," Jonah warned with a chuckle. "Those might be the kind that makes you see dancing squirrels." Lila, always the cautious one, pulled out her camera to snap a photo instead. "Better safe than sorry," she quipped. As they continued, the forest grew denser, and the trail narrowed into a winding path that seemed almost hidden. The only sounds were their footsteps, and the occasional rustle of leaves as squirrels darted between the trees. Sam stopped abruptly, holding up a hand. "Do you hear that?" They all paused, straining to listen. In the distance, a soft melody drifted through the air, a faint, haunting tune that seemed to belong to the forest itself. Curiosity piqued. The group followed the sound, veering off the main trail. The melody grew clearer, revealing itself as the notes of a wooden flute. They emerged into a small clearing where an elderly man sat on a fallen tree, playing his flute with closed eyes. His long silver hair flowed over his shoulders, and his face was weathered but kind. The man stopped playing as they approached, his eyes twinkling with amusement. "You've wandered far from the trail," he said in a voice that carried the weight of countless stories. "We heard your music," Lila explained. "It was beautiful." The man smiled, gesturing for them to sit. "You're welcome to rest here. I've lived in these woods for many years, and they have a way of guiding travelers to unexpected places." He introduced himself as Elias, a hermit who had chosen to live in harmony with nature. As they chatted, Elias shared tales of the forest, of hidden caves with glimmering crystals, of deer that danced under the moonlight, and of an ancient tree rumored to grant solace to those who touched its bark. Elias offered to guide them to a nearby waterfall, a detour he promised would be worth their while. The group followed him through a barely visible trail, ducking under low-hanging branches and stepping over tangled roots. The sound of rushing water grew louder until they emerged into a clearing where the forest opened to reveal a cascading waterfall. The water tumbled down a rocky cliff into a crystal-clear pool, its surface reflecting the surrounding greenery. The sunlight caught the mist rising from the falls, creating a rainbow that seemed to dance in the air. Mia gasped, her hands covering her mouth. "It's magical." Elias nodded. "This place has a way of reminding you how small yet connected we are to everything." They spent the afternoon exploring the area. Sam waded into the shallow edges of the pool, the icy water sending shivers up his spine. Jonah climbed onto a rock near the falls, his laughter ringing out as the spray soaked him. Lila and Mia sat on the mossy bank, their feet dipping into the water as they marveled at the beauty around them. Elias bid them farewell as evening approached, his parting words lingering in their minds. "Listen to the forest tonight. It often has much to say." They camped near the waterfall, the sound of the rushing water providing a soothing backdrop as they lit a fire and prepared dinner. The stars seemed brighter here, their brilliance undimmed by city lights. Jonah pulled out a notebook and began sketching the waterfall, his pencil capturing the flow and grace of the water. As they sat around the fire, sharing stories and laughter, a faint glow appeared in the distance. Fireflies, hundreds of them, danced among the trees, their golden light flickering like tiny lanterns. The group watched in awe, their laughter fading into quiet wonder. Mia leaned back, her voice soft. "Do you think Elias is right? That the forest speaks?" Sam chuckled. "If it does, I bet it's telling us to bring better snacks next time." Lila smiled, but said nothing, her gaze fixed on the flickering fireflies. Deep down, she felt the truth in Elias's words. The forest had spoken to her, not in words, but in its beauty, its mystery, and its stillness. The test of friendship. The day began with a strange stillness in the air. The chirping birds seemed quieter, and the usual rustle of leaves was absent. The group woke to a sky overcast with heavy clouds, the scent of rain hanging in the cool breeze. The waterfall still roared behind them, but its sound seemed distant, almost muffled. Jonah stretched and glanced at the sky. "Looks like we're in for some weather," he murmured. Lila checked the map as they ate a quick breakfast. "Today's trail climbs higher into the ridges. If it rains, it'll get tricky." Her voice was calm, but there was an edge of concern. Sam, ever the optimist, grinned. "What's a trek without a little adventure?" By mid-morning, the trail led them into a dense section of forest where the light barely filtered through the towering pines. The air grew heavier, and the first raindrops splashed onto the leaves above. The scent of wet earth filled the air, mingling with the faint aroma of pine. The drizzle soon turned into a steady downpour. The sound of rain on the canopy was rhythmic, almost hypnotic, but the trail quickly became a muddy challenge. Lila led the group cautiously, her boots sinking slightly with each step. Jonah walked behind her, his sharp eyes scanning the path for potential hazards. The rain intensified, accompanied by the occasional rumble of thunder. The group paused under a large tree with thick branches, hoping for a reprieve. Sam tilted his head back, letting the rain wash over his face. "Well, this is refreshing," he quipped, though his grin faltered as lightning flashed across the sky. "We need to find shelter," Lila said firmly, her voice cutting through the sound of the storm. After an hour of trudging through the rain, they stumbled upon an abandoned cabin nestled in a clearing. Its wooden structure was weathered but intact, and the moss-covered roof blended seamlessly with the surrounding forest. Mia ran to the door and pushed it open, revealing a dusty but surprisingly dry interior. The group gratefully entered, shaking off their soaked jackets and setting their packs down. The cabin had a stone fireplace, a few wooden benches, and shelves lined with cobweb-covered jars. Jonah examined the fireplace and found a stack of dry wood nearby. "Looks like whoever was here last prepared for rainy days." Soon a fire crackled in the hearth, filling the cabin with warmth and casting dancing shadows on the walls. Sam rummaged through his pack and pulled out a bag of marshmallows, skewering them on sticks and passing them around. "Cabin life isn't so bad," he joked, his smile restoring a bit of cheer. As the storm raged outside, the group huddled near the fire. Lila spread the map on the floor, her finger tracing their route. "We're behind schedule now," she said, glancing at the others. "Tomorrow's going to be tough." Jonah placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll make it?" he said with quiet confidence. The storm persisted into the evening, and the group began to feel the strain of close quarters. Sam and Mia argued over a misplaced flashlight, their voices rising above the patter of rain. Lila, tired from the day's trek, snapped at Jonah when he suggested rerouting their path. "Enough," Jonah finally said, his voice firm but calm. "We're all tired and wet, but we're in this together. Let's not let the rain drown our friendship." His words hung in the air, and the cabin fell silent. Mia sighed and muttered an apology, and Sam sheepishly handed her the flashlight. Lila nodded at Jonah, her expression softening. "You're right. Let's focus on the good." To lighten the mood, Sam pulled out his harmonica and began playing a lively tune. The group joined in with claps and laughter, their spirits lifting as the music filled the tiny cabin. As night fell, the storm began to subside, leaving behind the gentle sound of dripping water and the occasional rustle of leaves. The fire burned low, casting a soft glow as the group settled in for the night. Mia found an old journal on one of the shelves, its pages filled with faded writing. She read aloud snippets of a long-gone traveler's musings about the forest, its beauty, and its challenges. "It's like they were writing about us," Mia said, her voice tinged with wonder. Lila smiled. "Maybe every trekker feels the same, humbled and awed by nature." The group shared stories late into the night, their earlier tensions forgotten. Jonah spoke of his childhood dreams of exploring uncharted lands, while Sam described his secret ambition to write a travel book. Mia confessed her fear of failing to finish the trek, and Lila reassured her with a soft smile. "You're stronger than you think." They fell asleep to the soft crackle of the dying fire, the cabin a cocoon of warmth and camaraderie. Outside, the forest seemed to sigh in relief as the storm moved on, leaving the promise of a new day, the summit of friendship. The morning after the storm was breathtakingly serene. The world outside the cabin seemed to have been reborn, washed clean by the rain. The trees sparkled with droplets, and the air was crisp and cool, carrying the earthy scent of wet leaves and pine. A gentle mist lingered over the forest floor, giving the scene an almost magical quality. The friends packed their gear, their spirits buoyed by the clear skies and the promise of new adventures. Lila studied the map one last time before they set off. "The toughest part of the trail lies ahead," she said, glancing at the others. "But it also leads to the most beautiful views." "Bring it on," Sam said with a grin, adjusting his pack. The trail quickly began to climb, winding its way up the rugged mountainside. The forest gradually thinned, giving way to rocky terrain dotted with low shrubs and wildflowers. The sun climbed higher, its golden light bathing the landscape and casting long shadows behind them. As they ascended, the trail became steeper and more challenging. Loose gravel and uneven stones made every step deliberate, and the group paused frequently to catch their breath. Despite the physical strain, their spirits remained high. "Just think," Jonah said, his voice light despite the effort. "Every step is one closer to the summit." The higher they climbed, the more spectacular the views became. The forest below stretched out like an emerald carpet, and in the distance they could see the glint of rivers winding through the valley. The air was thinner here, but it carried a sense of freedom, as if they were leaving the worries of the world far below. As they rounded a bend in the trail, they came upon a small plateau, where a lone tree stood defiantly against the wind. Beneath its twisted branches, they found a cairn of carefully stacked stones. A weathered wooden sign leaned against the cairn, etched with a simple inscription: "To those who seek, may you find. To those who climb, may you rise." Mia knelt beside the cairn, her fingers tracing the words. "It feels like it was left just for us," she said softly. The group added their own stones to the cairn, a small gesture to mark their passage and honor those who had come before them. Jonah took a moment to carve their initials into a nearby rock, a subtle but enduring reminder of their journey. The trail's last stretch was the steepest yet, a narrow path that wound up the face of the ridge. The wind picked up as they climbed, tugging at their jackets and filling the air with the sound of its restless whistle. Their muscles ached and their breaths came in short, sharp bursts, but the summit was within sight. "Almost there," Lila encouraged, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. Sam, who had been humming a tune to keep morale up, stumbled slightly but caught himself with a laugh. "I'll sing a victory song at the top," he promised, his grin unwavering. As they crested the final rise, the world seemed to open up before them. The summit was a broad, rocky expanse, offering a panoramic view that stole their breath. Mountains rolled out to the horizon, their peaks kissed by the sun. A vast lake shimmered far below, its surface reflecting the sky like a giant mirror. The wind carried a faint whisper, as if the mountain itself was congratulating them. The friends stood together at the summit, their arms around one another. For a moment, none of them spoke, their silence filled with awe and gratitude. The challenges of the trail, the storm, and their disagreements all seemed insignificant now. They had reached the top, not just of the mountain, but of something deeper within themselves. Mia wiped a tear from her cheek, her voice barely above a whisper. "We did it." Jonah smiled. "We didn't just climb a mountain, we climbed together." Sam, true to his word, pulled out his harmonica and began to play. The cheerful tune filled the air, carrying their joy out into the endless expanse of sky and stone. Lila closed her eyes, letting the moment wash over her like a warm embrace. As they sat on the summit, sharing the last of their snacks and taking in the view, they began to talk about what came next, not just the journey back down the mountain, but their lives beyond the trail. "We should do this every year," Lila said, her voice resolute. "A tradition. One trek, one summit, together." Sam raised an imaginary glass. To more adventures. They lingered at the summit for as long as they could, savoring every detail. The feel of the wind, the scent of the wildflowers, the sound of their laughter mingling with the mountain's silence. When they finally began their descent, the sun was dipping low in the sky, painting the world in hues of amber and rose. As they retraced their steps, the group carried more than just their gear. They carried the strength they had found in one another, the lessons the mountain had taught them, and the memories they had made. By the time they reached the trailhead, the stars were beginning to emerge. They looked back at the silhouette of the ridge, its peak now shrouded in twilight. Jonah spoke the words they were all feeling. We'll never forget this." And as they walked away, the mountain stood quietly behind them, its presence a timeless reminder of the journey they had shared. Thank you for joining us on Trekking Bonds, a story of friendship, resilience, and the quiet beauty of nature's embrace. If you felt the calm and wonder of this tale, consider giving it a thumbs up. Share it with friends and family who enjoy relaxing stories, and don't forget to subscribe for more serene escapes every day. Wishing you peaceful nights and sweet dreams.